Here is a list of all the new games announced at Sony's State of Play this week. In summary, there was not much new content. If you pay attention to directs and industry events from the past year, you probably already heard of these previously announced titles. The individual quality of these games is much better than most industry events, but there were only 7 newly announced games that aren't console ports. I'll highlight some games that seem to be getting a lot of attention. Sony closed out their second direct of the year with another God of War game titled Laughter. To me, it mostly looks like another God of War game, but with some added weird things. The intro started off with Kratos cremating the main character, which made me laugh because I haven't played the 2018 game where this first happens. The 2018 game was about Kratos and his son, but this Laufey game trailer doesn't include Atreus as a playable character this time around? That's a question. Obviously, her fate is to give birth to one of the main characters of the 2018 game and marry the other. But I guess we'll see how much of the timeline they focus on. It seems they want to fully focus on the female protagonist's heroics and prowess, which could be interesting. But that cube of wonder shouldn't be necessary. Besides that, the graphics look very good, and the action looks as good as most God of War games. Another highlight was Until Dawn 2 was announced. This game might not be for me because of the characters and their story. However, it is a horror narrative choice game which many people may find appealing. I'm hoping Ill will be great. Trailers can be very flattering and hide weaknesses exposed when you load up the game. That being said, I can't even help but feel hyped for this game. It is a scary feeling as the most horrific Silent Hill games and scary movies are. One of my most anticipated games was confirmed for September 25th, 2026. I'm looking forward to playing the demo for Onimusha Way of the Sword. It's been years since I last played an Onimusha game. In conclusion, I would say this was a good showing, but again, most of these titles have already been announced at other directs and industry events. My average height for these trailers is 64.3 out of 100, so I took off points from the overall grade because only 7 of these titles are completely new and not just console ports. Overall grade is 5 out of 10, which is on par for the lower overall quality of the gaming industry for at least the past couple of years. However, by the end of September, we can finally start seeing the real Game of the Year contenders, when the most highly anticipated games will start being released. It has been a slow year, but by the time GTA 6 will supposedly release, there will be plenty of great games to play. Summer Game Fest 2026 was kind of a mess. The live stream had synchronization issues and lag. The video on demands didn't fix this issue, and the YouTube video list is missing the last 45 minutes of game trailers. Here are my highlights from Summer Games Fest 2026. Fresh off the success and popularity of Resident Evil Requiem as a remake for Code Veronica to be released a year after. The trailer didn't really show much gameplay at all, but I am hyped for more Resident Evil games. It has a release date of 2027, developed and published by Capcom. It is announced for PlayStation 5, Switch 2, PC, and Xbox X, Series X. Gundam Rogue Orbit has a release date of 2027, published and developed by Bandai Namco, it is announced for PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X. It's been a while since I've played a really good mech combat game. This looks to be exciting. It is made in Unreal Engine, but the gameplay here looks nice. West Harbor was announced for PC, a fishing survival horror game. Published and developed by Tiny Build, no release date. The fishing aspect looks convincing compared to most games. I'm curious to see how going back to the land to fight zombies matters. Doesn't look like a super serious game, but hopefully this will be a polished product. Guild Wars 3 was confirmed to be in development, but has no release date yet. I was impressed with Guild Wars 2, but didn't want to invest any time in MMOs. Might have to pay more attention now that I've done all the Final Fantasy XIV story content and found tricks to feel accomplished while waiting for new content to show up. Virtual Fighter meets MMA. This is one of the best arcade fighting game franchises ever, and now it meets more realism with contemporary professional martial arts scenes. Familiar characters and some new ones. I can't wait to try the combat system with the updated graphics. The release date is 2027. Fighting game published by Sega, developed by RGG Studio. I got to play Lords of the Fallen 1, which was recently made available for free on PlayStation Plus, and I think it is definitely a nice Souls-like game. Pretty good results using Unreal Engine. If they expand the multiplayer co-op to 3 simultaneous players, I think this will be a must-buy for me later this year. The combat and environments were my favorite parts of the first one. I already own the early access version on PC and PlayStation 5 for Power. Honestly, I never initially bought into the hype for this game, but eventually, once I tried it, I was hooked instantly. So many good elements that are done better than in other games, including Pokemon. That being said, it had a lot of incomplete things that lack polish. The multiplayer does add to the enjoyability, especially if you have to start over. I will definitely at least complete the story mode to say I completed the game. So I am hyped for the 1.0 version, even though I have got my money's worth. There's no way I wouldn't highlight the sequel to my favorite Telltale game of all time. Telltale has been through a lot, so I really hope they can deliver on this much anticipated sequel. The storytelling was top notch in the early games. They also announced a remastered version, but I do think it's bad form to announce the first sequel 14 years later at the same time they decide to remaster the first one. Wolf Among Us 2 announced for PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X. Release date 2027. Stellar Blade Blood Rain announced for PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X. No release date yet. Published and developed by Shift Up, an action adventure game. The first Stellar Blade was very good. I think Shift Up can only go up from here. The trailer looked great. Not sure how I feel about the main character, but the first one definitely convinced me to give it a shot. So I trust Shift Up with the character and story direction. In conclusion, I think the Summer Games Fest 2026 had better games than last year. My average hype for 2025 was 55.77, with an overall grade of 3 out of 10. This year, it shows my average height was 57.85 and my overall grade was 6 out of 10. But that's for individual trailers and then my personal preference of the overall show. It did have a lot of problems in the live stream. I would say my score was pretty accurate because although there were a handful of very good games in 2025, overall, the end of the year was dormant, and 2026 has had a lot of bad releases. The show had 40 titles, and opened and closed with some really strong ones. Some of these trailers were purely cinematic and didn't include gameplay, so it's hard for me to get excited for them when other trailers have more gameplay to show. That, or it's a game like FF7 Revelation that is part of the FF7 remake, which, in my opinion, has been taking too long to release in full. For the Xbox Game Showcase 2026, well, I don't have an Xbox Series X, but I am looking for a reason to buy one. That being said, I'm not hyped for any of the exclusives announced. Here are my highlights from the show. I apologize if I don't sound as enthused. Resonance: A Plague Tale Legacy, announced for PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X, is an action-adventure game published by Focus Entertainment and developed by Asobo Studio. It has a release date of August 27, 2026. This one looks better than the first one. I think it was just the huge focus on rats in the marketing that really drove me away. This one focuses more on action. Metro 2039 was announced with a release date of February 1st, 2027, published by Deep Silver, developed by 4A Games. It's an action adventure game for PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X. While the Metro series is still going strong, I hope it is legitimate and not full of filler contents. I bought the first Wolong game but never finished it. It seems to lack the adrenaline rush of similar games like Neo 3 and Ninja Gaiden 4, but still looks very solid. Could be enjoyable, I think. It has a release date of, well, not really announced, but early 2027, available for PS5, Switch 2, PC, and Xbox Series X. An action adventure game published by Koei Tecmo, developer Team Ninja. I want this game to succeed very badly, but we literally saw mere seconds of gameplay on this trailer. Release date spring 2027 for PS5, Switch 2, PC, and Xbox Series X. An honorable mention was Valor Mortis. It's a first person roguelike, an interesting concept. It was announced today that it will release October 13th, 2026, and a demo is out now. In conclusion, Xbox is still lagging behind the competition, but this showcase was better than I expected. I thought for Gears of War E-Day the gameplay looked dated, though it could still be fun, while the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 lacked visual detail. Actually, if you look at the E-Day Direct, they explain more what it's about, but being an exclusive doesn't convince me. I was very confused by the Fable trailer, and since the game was already delayed, I don't think the development went well. The remakes of Halo and Persona 4 looked okay, but I'm not sure if they are really needed right now. Persona 6 sounds exciting, but there was no gameplay or anything, unfortunately. The sad part is that a lot of the new offerings of these celebrated IPs seem very lackluster. These are big shoes to fill, but potentially most of the games can live up to their names. The individual trailers were nicer overall. Some of my hype shows 58.80 grade, and my overall grade was 5.5 out of 10. So it's the big IPs from this show are available on other platforms as well. So that kind of affected the score. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I included links below if you like these spreadsheets.